Very shortly we will be entering into the Yom Tov of Shavuos, and I'd like to share with you a powerful story that'll give you a tremendous insight into this Yom Tov. In the late 1800s there was a Sachachav Chassid named Reb Yidel, who planned on spending the Yom Tov of Shavuos by his Rebbe, the Avnei Nezer. Now Reb Yidel was a businessman who did a lot of traveling, so he scheduled that during his travels, Shavuos should end up by his Rebbe. But things don't always go as planned, and he found himself stuck in a far-off little village for Yom Tov. The village didn't have a very big Jewish community. As a matter of fact, the only Jewish community was a group of Cantonists. To understand what the Cantonists were, you need to first know a little bit about Russian history during the 18th century. The Russian Tsar had a mission to convert and force all people to become the same. No rich, no poor, no Jewish, no religious. Everyone had to be exactly equal. The way they did it was by imposing a draft. They would make a quota on a village and take a group of boys to serve in the Russian army from age 18 till 45. Of course there would be no kosher food. You'd have to work on Shabbos, and in order to get a better coat for the freezing winter cold, you'd have to write letters home to your parents disavowing their religion, saying you no longer want them. Unfortunately, most fell, and by the time they left the army, they were good Russian citizens with no connection to Yiddishkeit. But some were stronger, and the commanders would beat them, but they still refused to write home such letters. So when the Russians saw they couldn't break them, they'd forge these letters and send them to their houses anyways. After the families getting these letters, they'd send back letters to the men saying, "We don't want you anymore, never come back to us. We disown you." After many years, when these people would finally graduate from the Russian army, they would have nowhere to go. They still believed in Hashem and wanted to be from, but their families wouldn't let them back because they didn't trust them anymore. And the Goyim, they didn't want them either. They were left all alone, so they formed these little communities of sad, broken people, which became known as the Cantonists, a gathering of the unwanted with no home to turn to. In such a village, Reb Yidel found himself for Shavuos. He had such great plans of hearing his Rebbe's Akdamas, to spend all night in the big shul with hundreds of people learning. Yet here he was, with these plain, simple people. He was the only one in the shul that Shavuos night. As soon as Yom Tov was over, he quickly hired a horse and wagon to take him straight to his Rebbe. He gets to his Rebbe and he's still so upset. So he tells him how his grand plans had all fallen apart and how disappointed he was. The Avnei Nezer looks at him and tells him, "Reb Yidel, tell me, these Cantonisten, do they have a Rav?" Reb Yidel answers, "Yes, the one who remembers the most from when they were kids acts as the Rav." The Rebbe looks at him and tells him, "So tell me, what did the Cantonisten Rav say on Yom Tov?" Reb Yidel thinks for a minute and says, the first night of Shavuos, he quoted the Gemara that says that Hashem picked up Har Sinai and held it over our heads and said, if you're going to accept the Torah, good. Ve'im lav, sham tehei kivuraschem. If not, there will be your burial. The Rav asked, why did Hashem say the word sham? There will be your burial. Shouldn't he have said poi, here? Aren't they standing right now underneath the mountain, right over here? The Rav answered, Hashem wasn't speaking to Moshe Rabbeinu. He wasn't speaking to Klal Yisrael, because those people that were standing there had already said Na'aseh and Ishma. They're going to listen and they're going to do. No, Hashem was talking to those Yidden that weren't part of Klal Yisrael, that for whatever reason found themselves as outcasts, that questioned if they even belonged, people like us, that nobody seemed to want. And what did Hashem say? Even you, lonely Jew out there, accept the Torah, because if not Hashem is going to bury you, but you're going to bury yourself, because a life without Torah isn't a life at all. With that, the former soldiers started dancing and singing with tears streaming down their faces. The Avnei Nezer finishes listening and looks at Reb Yidel and says, and you wanted to spend Shavuos with me? Sometimes what we learn about Shavuos doesn't seem very relatable. What? I'm gonna sit and learn all night? Am I really such a masmid? Am I really so connected to the Torah? But that's not what we celebrate on Shavuos. On Shavuos we're celebrating and thanking Hashem for the greatest gift, a manual that is a guaranteed path to purpose, meaningfulness, and happiness. When you choose to believe and choose to live a life of Torah, you will always have purpose, always have meaning, and even if you're having a really hard day, you'll always know you have Hashem to turn to. What we celebrate on Shavous is we are thanking Hashem for this incredible book that guarantees us pure happiness and purpose, the ultimate gift from Hashem to us, the Torah.
Oy oy chazi 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 Yebunay chavivay Chazi chazi Yebunay chavivay Oy 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 de mishtakim B'tzar d'yilyoy V'yoskin b'chedves udini Chazi, chazi, yibunay, bunay, chavi.